this regular meeting of council to order. If I can ask everyone to please rise for the national anthem. I'll now ask if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Okay, seeing none, I will look to the clerk to read the resolution to move session.
The council now move into closed session to discuss item under section 239 2 subsection F of the Municipal Act 2001, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege, an update on current legal files. Item under section 239 2 subsection B of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, committee of council application review, and minutes of the closed session of council held April 18th, May 9th, and June 6th of 2017.
Okay, can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Alderman Hessel, seconded by Alderman Conk. I'll call the question. All those in favor, and that's carried. And we should be back, I would think, very shortly. So if everybody wants to hang in there.
farmers don't care, they get paid. And then they're right on there, on the road along, just little things where they got, what do you call it? Conductors, I don't know what they call those watches. Sitting right on the road along. No idea. Okay, that's cool.
So we don't need to do anything, just.
You did okay so far. I give you credit for effort.
Okay, so we're returning from closed session. Council met in closed session to receive advice from the township solicitor and give direction related to a current legal proceeding affecting the municipality. Council also discussed the qualifications of a Wainfleet resident who submitted an application for representation on the Fire Master Plan Implementation Committee, and I will now look to Alderman Conk to make a motion regarding that appointment.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I make the motion that we accept the application for Fire Master Plan Implementation Committee and direct staff to put the necessary bylaws in place to do that.
Okay, and shall we publicly announce who that, okay, so.
The applicant's name is Alfred Keers.
Okay, so that's moved by Alderman Conk, and I need a seconder, Alderman Dykstra. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, so now we are moving on to delegations tonight, and we have 3 delegations. So the first one is Mr. Cam Wilson regarding Highway of Heroes. So if I can call Mr. Wilson up, there he is. So Cam, if you, when you come to the podium, if you just press the little button, the red light should come on and you can adjust the microphone, and whenever you're ready.
Honorable Mayor, councilors, friends. My name's Cam Wilson, and I'm from the Well Alliance Club. I've been here for the Well Alliance Club for over 32 years. Also, I'm a member of the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 4 in Welland, and I've been a member there now for 42 years and still going. My topic today is the Highway Heroes Living Tribute, which was formed on August the 24th, 2007. This year, the Highway Heroes would like to plant along Highway 401 from Trenton west to Toronto, and because it's the largest corridor in Canada, we want to plant 117,000 trees. Each tree is for each soldier who fell in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, and now Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan war. So the tribute is all volunteer work, and nobody receives any funds whatsoever. Each tree costs approximately $150. In return, you will receive another tree for $150, plus a t-shirt and a plaque like this, which the Well Alliance Club has received. And you can buy one tree, a couple of trees, or a tree, make donations, and whatever you feel like. And I'll tell you, this is the best $150 that I think Wainfleet would ever invest. And fortunately, in our backyard, Vineland Innovation and Research Division has selected a tree to be planted along the 401. Everybody thought, well, because of the sanders in the wintertime, the salt would knock off the trees and that. So what they did, they selected about a dozen different trees. So what happened was, it wasn't just the salt and the sand, it was the soil. So the silver maple is a tree of choice. So what I'm saying to you is give it some thought, and I hope that you'll support this program. And I like to leave this with you people. We have our freedom today. For those who have fallen, at least we forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Cam. I appreciate the presentation. Does anybody have any questions for Cam?
Yes.
Before he sits down? Okay. So seeing none, does council wish to discuss this request now, or typically we try to stay away from making motions on the fly. I think in this instance we could, or we could direct staff to come back with a report, or Alderman Hassels.
Yeah, we do have a fund in our budget that we can draw from this, right?
I think so. I can look to Adam, the council let you speak to that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Hessels. Yes, council does have a line on their budget with respect to these types of donations.
I would make the motion that we go ahead.
Okay?
The $150
Sure.
for the tree. I'm not sure who's gonna get the t-shirt though.
Well, since you made the it's going to be a long, tall t-shirt if it's for Richard. Okay, so a seconder for Alderman Hessel's motion, Alderman Dykstra. Any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none. Oh, Alderman Conk, you had a question?
Through you, Madam Mayor, how many trees are we looking at purchasing? Because I think the delegation talked about the cost of $150 per tree, and it mentioned 2 trees, so does that mean $300? Are we planning on purchasing more?
I think Alderman Hessel said 1 tree, but
My take is that we get 2 trees for $150, one that's planted here and one that's planted there, if I'm correct.
Yes.
okay.
So
So I think, okay, perfect. Alderman Dykstra.
Through you, Madam Mayor, absolutely we should be supporting this. I'm just wondering whether, being we're having a tree planted here in the town, we should probably include staff as to whether they have any potential locations for that tree, or we could talk about that at a later date. I don't know about delivery time or anything like that, and maybe he's planning, maybe Richard has some ideas as far as trees. Maybe we can get more than 2 trees.
Richard?
Through your worship to Alderman Dykstra, we do have plans in the works for a tree program, which will incorporate a negotiation that will be taking place shortly. But yeah, we do have various areas, including the park out back and the Canyon 150 tree. We have planted that already, but we have various locations we can plant them along all our cemeteries as well as our parkland behind us.
Cam, did you have another comment that?
Yes, you can buy like 1 tree this year, another tree next year, like the tree that you buy.
Can you come to the mic? I'm sorry, because I'm getting a look from our live streaming in the back, and I know people can't hear unless you're at the microphone, so sorry to make you come.
Yeah, no problem. You can buy, like, for example, like 1 tree this year, and when the tree that you buy will be planted on the 401, and then this company that's supplying it will send you a tree. I have an example of a tree in my bag there. Then you plant it wherever you want, like in front of City Hall, the arena, or wherever you want. And what most people, most cities are doing right now, municipalities, is that when the tree gets bigger, they make a little plaque dedicated to the highway heroes from Wainfleet Township, or you make your own plaque, or whatever you want to put on it. So that's what happens. So 1 tree goes that you buy to the 401. You send you back another tree, a T-shirt, and a plaque, and then this is how it operates. This is a really good situation that we're in.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. And so then we can each year, if we decide to do it.
Exactly.
Perfect.
I think this is what the city of Welland's doing, because I think they purchased a couple of pork over, and So this is my agenda. I'm kind of doing this on my own, like doing all the cities right now. The next mail out will be all the legions, and the one after that is going to be all the service clubs. And I would like to say that the Welland Lions Club is the first Lions Club, first service club in Canada to donate money for the trees and make a donation. And we're headed for Toronto probably next month for a photo shoot for.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you coming and
I
making the
appreciate
request.
the little chance to speak about it, because it's, like I said, I think it's the best $150 that you'll ever spend.
Absolutely. I think Alderman Dykstra has a question.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Cam, I'm just wondering, is this program only available to municipalities, or is it available to businesses or community members?
Well, it's to everybody. Like Port Colborne set me up with a couple of businesses. I have 5 people on line right now that just individuals that want to contribute, like that. Anybody, any business, any service club can participate in all this.
So you can leave your contact information with...
Yes, I have brochures here. Where do you want me to leave? So I leave them here someplace? Okay, then they can just put them online, and you can order all your stuff online, all your trees. You want to just donate money, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great. If there aren't any further questions for Cam, then we'll vote on Alderman Hassel's motion and then go from there. So I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, that's great. So we'll move on to our next delegation, which is Mr. Chris Carrier, who is here from Fire Marquee regarding an information presentation.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. It's a privilege to be here. I'm enjoying watching the proceedings as a former mayor of the town of Collingwood. It's always nice to see how other folks do their business. So it's quite interesting. Firemark began its operations on the operations side 6 years ago. We have 90 and a half clients. I'm going to qualify that by it's 90 and a half. Our latest clients are the City of Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay has unanimously passed the staff report from the Committee of the Whole, and they've also amended their fee bylaw, but their municipal solicitors reviewing the contract, and so that was just happened in the last 2 weeks. And the municipality of Tweed, Wednesday last week. So we're on our way to 91, and we're hoping for more. Our largest client is the City of Kitchener, and our smallest would be probably the town of Bancroft. Essentially, what our program does is it accesses the insurance contracts that property holders sign with their insurer. So Canada has 207 insurance companies operating coast to coast to coast. Most of those are in the province of Ontario. You may see your insurer in the top 20. Personally, my home in Collingwood is insured with Aviva, a good company. It's number 2 in Canada. And the top 20 represent 84% of the marketplace, which leaves about 187 companies that are sharing 16% of the marketplace. And those are the companies that we see in a lot of smaller communities across the province. So the OMIA companies, all mutuals, very good community members, but they are a small share of the overall market in Canada. Almost all property insurance policies in Canada have coverage under the additional coverages section for fire department service charges. So this is a typical small commercial policy where the limit is $25,000 in this policy. So the fire department responded to an insured peril, like a fire, to this business. There's $25,000 of eligible recoverable expenses from this policy. There's also a lot of policies out there with a smaller amount, and 207 companies, you're going to see $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. It's just going to depend on which company the policy is with. This is a typical rural family farm policy where the limits are $1,000 for the fire department coverage. We are seeing Wawanesa and a few others moving the limits up from $1,000 to $3,000 and $5,000 in this coverage. And the interesting marketplace dynamic right now is that Intact Insurance is making an aggressive move for the farm mutual market in Ontario. And the wordings in their policies include fire department service charges for up to $25,000. So the marketplace will be in a state of flux in that sector, probably for the next 18 months or so. So what is indemnification technology? Essentially, this is the legal definition, so it's easier to read. I just maximized the wording so that you can see it. In 6 years of doing this, it's important that you understand that we're invoicing insurance companies. So if you have an incident at your home and have a fire, and let's just say, I always like to use the cooperators as an example. You're insured with cooperators. We would deal with the adjuster for cooperators in recovering from your own policy. So you as a policyholder, you're entitled to the funds to have your home rebuilt, the contents replaced, to stay at a hotel or lodging while all of that work is being done. But under the additional coverages section in a cooperative's policy, there's $5,000 sitting there for the fire service. You, the policyholder, are not entitled to those funds. Only the municipal fire department is entitled to those funds. Otherwise, it's kept in the insurance property. Essentially, what we need you to do, and we request that you do, is to amend your fee bylaw to include, under your emergency services section, language that will include fire department response, and then this is what the recoveries are for. The current MTO rate per hour per vehicle, plus personnel costs, plus any additional costs. So water, phone, repairing or cleaning the equipment, anything that can be part of the defined loss is subject to recovery, once again, only to the limits of the policy. And why is that bylaw amendment required? Because the insurance policy wordings are written in such a way that it requires you to do it. It says that in this Allstate Elite Homeowners wording, as an example, that they will pay up to $5,000 if there's a local requirement to pay. So you, as a level of government, you are privileged to pass legislation. Your legislative tool is to amend your fee bylaw, and that is the key to unlocking that insurance contract to access this portion of the additional coverages section to receive the funds you're entitled to. We also ask our clients if you can appoint us by municipal bylaw, much like we do with your municipal auditors. You don't have to. You can do the contract by resolution. It just makes it easier when we're dealing with an insurance company. When they say, how do we know you're working, in this case, for the town of Huntsville, we would send them a copy of the bylaw. Otherwise, we send them a copy of the contract that we have. Process, I've gone into some detail with this, with Kevin and your senior management team. The copy of the standard incident report is something that we would like a copy of. This is work that your staff is already doing. We will, if you become a client, we will sit down with you so that we understand what your costs are. We'll pull the data out from that report that we need, and we'll then draw up the invoice and we'll deal with the adjuster for that insurance company, provide the proof of loss, provide the costing to them. The recovery takes about 12 to 14 weeks in an average file. The quickest has been 8 days, and the longest has been 22 months. It just depends on the complexity of the file. You'll see that in some commercial policies or industrial policies, it might be a single incident, but there may be 10 different insurance companies on that particular file. The money comes to our trust account. We receive no income for that. The trustee will then issue a check. In our contract, it says on a quarterly basis to you. The reality is that the check comes in on a Friday, we'll have it by the following Friday. You receive 70% of the gross funds recovered. We retain 30% for ourselves. If we've worked on a file and there is no recovery, we close that file and we return all the information to your staff, and there is no cost, there's no minimum, there's no annual fee. It's strictly a pay-for-performance model. Here's what your budget looks like. I enjoy still being 7 years out of politics and enjoy looking at municipal budgets. I'm not a member of the community, but it does give me a bit of a feel for what's going on in the community. There is your fire department 2016 revenue side, $28,400. And then this is our projection for you on an annual basis, your share, an additional $9,300 to that to the original amount of $28,000 to your budget. So how do we arrive at that cost recovery projection? The fire market was started by retired insurance adjusters who have, the top three have 105 years of experience on the adjusting side. So we know what the incident rate per thousand of population is, and we know what the average payout is. So it's been it was a business model projection 7 years ago, 6 years of actually doing recoveries, bless you, that we're pretty confident in the numbers that we are projecting. The money is for the fire department. It's clear in the insurance contract. It says these fire department expenses. So the money in our contract with you, we ask that it stay into the fire department budget. 3 broad categories: public education, personnel training, and capital purchases. So for an easy process to understand, and I spoke with this with your staff, is that it goes into a reserve as new income, and then the following year in your budget discussions, through the recommendations from your staff, you can either access those funds that came in, or you can leave it in the reserve to build up and use it at a later date. Sure, all of you love going to seminars put on by various legal firms about the Municipal Act. It's been significant changes over the last 15 years. The Municipal Act allows you to charge user fees, and not only does it allow you to charge user fees, it allows you to discriminate in the application of the fee. Where you see typical discrimination is pool rentals, ice rentals, and public transportation, busing, that example. Infants are free, toddlers are free, student discounts, middle-aged folks pay full freight, and senior citizens, if you don't give a senior citizen a discount as an elected official, you're a one-term elected official, by my estimation. The other interesting thing that the legislature did was giving you natural persons powers. And when they did that, the municipal act must say that you could do something. If you didn't say you could do it, you weren't allowed to do it. Now it must expressly forbid you from doing something. So we know you're allowed to charge user fees. We know you're allowed to discriminate in the application of the fee. But the question that you ask, is it reasonable for you to do so? So is it reasonable for you to enact legislation to access a private insurance contract where you are an identified first-party coverage within that contract? Policyholder is not entitled to those funds, only you are, and we can provide the proof of loss on your behalf. And the answer is yes, it is reasonable for you to do that. I get asked this one all the time in private conversations and in public conversations. There's some significant information there for you to review. Automotive and property are very different. We've been trained as automotive, don't make a claim, don't make a claim. I usually say I drove here today from Collingwood, but I didn't. I actually flew back from Nova Scotia this morning to Toronto, and then I drove to Cambridge and then here. But the asset that I'm driving is the car, and the car is valuable, but the risk is me. I'm the risk, the driver. So the premium is associated on the risk me. If my son wanted to own my car and drive it, I couldn't afford his insurance. He's 19 years old. However, if my son owned our home, he paid the same rate that I pay. The risk on the house is brick construction, wood construction. Is the municipal fire department, Collingwood, a composite department, a volunteer department, or a full-time department? There are lots of variables that come into play, but our program is a very small part of the overall premium that the policyholder pays in that, and it's insignificant to the overall premium bottom line of that policy. The owners are not required to pay a deductible. It is a deductible exclusionary within the policy. North Battleford, Saskatchewan is a client of ours. They had a fire in their library 3 years ago now, 2014. And we spoke with them and said, have you signed off on the claim? They asked us why not. They were insured with JLT, Jardine Lloyd Thompson, a significant insurer here in Ontario for municipalities. They have $100,000 worth of fire department expenses within their own insurance policy for the municipality, and that's where those funds were recovered. And no deductible applied. I get asked this by some ratepayers on occasion. As a former politico, and I do have conversations with folks a lot. We do understand that much of the municipality's budgets come from property taxation, but not all of it. And in the pressures of providing services, we're seeing constant upward pressure. So we're looking for alternative ways to find and recover costs. This is something that's already being paid for by the policyholder. It's in the policy. And prior to 2010, insurance companies were not paying out on this. Our company was created essentially to advocate on behalf of municipal fire departments to access these funds to which you are entitled to receive. Thanks for telling us how to do it. What do we need you for? It is more complicated than just sending an invoice. When we envisioned the business plan 7 years ago, We thought we might have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 streams in dealing with the various insurers across the country. However, we have multiple streams depending on whether we're dealing with Intact or cooperators or a media company or one of the 204 other different insurance companies across the country. Depending on how we interact with them, we set up individual processes for those companies at their request. The City of Oshawa, in their Treasury Department, also has adjusters who work in the Treasury Department. They are legal liability specialists, slips and falls specialists, and they advocated to their senior management team for us to do the work as property insurance experts. Here's a real example. For those of you that attended AMO in 2014, you'll remember that Essa Township, the town of Angus, was hit with a tornado. And they are a client of ours. They were actually our first client, Essa Township. 103 properties. We dealt with 41 different insurance companies for those 103 properties who were impacted by this tornado. It took a while for Essa Township to give us the files. It was 11 months, and that's fine. They had their responsibilities to their citizens, and those responsibilities came first. And then it took us 10 months to recover, not only for the Township of Essa, but also the 4 neighboring departments. And Mayor Terry Dotto, who is the director of FCM and the deputy warden for the county of Simcoe, is a strong advocate for our program. And there are some of Kevin's colleagues from across Ontario, and I think there's one there from Saskatchewan as well. But we like to put those pictures up and promote, especially at the OIOC. When we drop off a check for the local fire department, it's always nice to talk to people that I've met in the past and to bring them up. Worship, questions or comments, please?
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. First of all, I did not know that we have the former mayor of Collingwood in our company, so I think that's pretty cool. And secondly, I pronounced it Fire Marquee because I was told by a certain fire chief that that was how it was pronounced. Meredith and I were the only ones who thought it was Fire Mark, so I just want to clarify that I was right in the beginning. So having clarified that, I'm just wondering if any council members have any questions for Chris. Alderman Hessels?
I think you did touch on it. So individual premiums will not be affected by this?
Correct. So I did an analysis even of my own policy from 2014. And I looked at my $1,510 that I paid into for my policy in Collingwood, and 98% of the identifiable premiums went to replacement of the home, replacement of the contents, and a few other things. Under the additional coverages and a few other coverages was $25 that was left over, and in that included the fire department service charges. So the fire department service charges, even though it's not all of the remaining costs, it represented less than 2% of the overall premium. Lloyd's of London came out, and Lloyd's, the number 7 insurer in Canada, came out with an article on Thursday, the 30th of March, 2017, where they were saying to their colleagues in the peer review magazine, warning of more pain as the rate squeeze continues. They're recognizing that the marketplace is soft, dynamic, it's in a state of flux, and there's strong pressure to keep premium rates low. This is a tiny, tiny portion of your overall premium. It will have no effect. If you don't make a claim, let's say you've had a small incident at your home and you don't make a claim, we close the file. If you make a claim, we piggyback on your claim process.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much for coming and making the presentation. We really appreciate it. It sounds like you've been driving all day, so thanks for taking the time to come to Wainfleet. And I don't know if council has a motion. Well, we need a motion to receive the presentation, but I don't know if we want to direct staff to look into this or just to receive it for now, and then we can come back at a later date. So I'll look to council for a motion at least to receive. Alderman Dykstra, so to receive the presentation. Seconder for that, Alderman Hessels. I'll call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, so we'll move on to our last delegation of the evening, and we have Mr. Robert Creighton here, and he's here regarding regulations for kennel licenses. So, Mr. Creighton, if you want to make your way to the podium. Mr. and Mrs. Creighton.
Mayor and Council, I'm not really familiar with proceedings, so I guess I can just read what I've written here. And we believe that a kennel license was not granted when property owner at 41769 Millrace Road appeared before council on October 22nd, 2013. He is now requesting a variance to operate a kennel at the same address. We believe that this is not the proper area for an operation of a kennel, as homes on Millrace Road are in the hamlet of Wainfleet, considered a prime area of real estate in Wainfleet, and this would be too close a proximity to the existing estate residential properties. To date, the property owner has been operating a kennel as a kennel without proper licensing for about 4 years. There have been numerous complaints lodged regarding barking issues at all hours of the night, interfering with a proper night's sleep, barking issues during the day, dogs running at large, defecation on neighbors' properties, and so on. Area residents are in the majority that a kennel license not be granted. If granted, excuse me, we believe rules would not be followed and the dogs and the business would carry on in the residence of 41769 Millrace, as has occurred since 2013. We believe a kennel would devalue our property, as it has been a very unpleasant situation since the operation of a kennel without being properly granted. And the existing bylaw was put into effect, and the sizes were taken into careful consideration before the bylaw became a rule and should not be changed. As stated in bylaw number 014-2016, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Wainfleet deems it expedient to license, regulate, and control the keeping of the dogs in the municipality. Many areas of this bylaw have been broken by the property owner, and granting a kennel license will likely give him the opportunity to ignore regulations in the future. We believe this would be operating as a commercial business, as these dogs run at least $2,000 to $3,000 per pup or more to buy from a kennel. And we do not wish a precedent be set by a variance being granted to this bylaw. We were told that a petition could not be presented at this time, as the council could not make a decision in this matter, or their input could not be considered. So basically, we just wanted to bring this to your lordship and the council to make this situation known, and we're not sure where it can go from here.
I believe that this will, I have one question to ask you. She's very good at this. If you were building a new home, would you build next to a kennel? My question, I would believe it would be no. It's going to devalue the properties. The land is not large enough, and the existing building is too close to our property. The person has put animals at the back, and they're still very, very noisy. I don't believe this is a minor variance, as he supposedly has 5 acres, and it takes 10. To me, that's a lot of people get voted in by one vote. So I don't believe that this is a proper place for a kennel. I have talked with some real estate executives, and they said the same thing, that lots of people will look at this property and say, oh, we can't buy your property, you're next to a kennel. It depreciates my property and other people. There's approximately 15 to 20 of us that are really upset. The farmer on the corner has told me personally that his cattle get agitated at night when the dogs are barking, because it draws the coyotes in to their kennel at the back. 'Cause obviously, we're right there. And it's, just don't feel it's proper. If it was a proper kennel and being managed by a proper kennel, maybe, but I really don't. I think the area is just too populated for it to happen. So basically, I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to make the presentation tonight. I'll look to see if council members have any questions for the presenter, Alderman Dykstra.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Creighton. In your opinion, would you say that the kennel was in operation since 2013 when the applicant came to council for a delegation?
Yes, it was.
So it's been in
Yeah, he was.
operation?
Yeah, the pups been. We watched the pups grow, watched them come to onto our porch, and our neighbor, in fact, last month took another pup back that wandered into his home.
They do have an online website that is available, and it has been on there for a number of years, advertising their pups, etc., for sale, and what kennel clubs they do belong to, and things like that.
Thank you.
Even after he approached the council, then he still went on with it until now, where it just kept building up, so that, we have to do something. I've asked this young man many times, and he's a very good man, to help us, and he says, sort of, his hands are tied until some laws are passed.
Other questions from council members, Alderman Hassels?
Yeah. Maybe the planner can tell us, what is the bylaw for kennels and hamlets?
Through your worship to Alderman Hessels. Kennels are not permitted in hamlets. In this particular instance, the property is split. Half of it is in the hamlet and half of it is in the agricultural area. So it has split zoning. So the front half of the property is zoned estate residential under bylaw, our old bylaw. And then the part of the property that's outside of the hamlet is zoned A2 agricultural, which permits a kennel. So he, in this particular instance, the applicant is asking for a minor variance to permit the kennel in the A2 part of the property.
Mr. Creighton, you wanted to
Yeah, can I add to that? He has the dogs at the house, not at the back, since the last 20 days. He put them there for a while, now they're back. On Saturday, he had a fellow into the house, not the agriculture area, and we're afraid that this will continue forever. And the people I've spoke to about this at the township feel the same way. It's not a minor variance when he's going to use the house for, and how are you going to control that? You'd have to have somebody stand there every day and watch it, because the dogs run on the road, and there's.
Okay, further questions from council members? Alderman Dykstra, second time.
Through you, Madam Mayor. My question is not to the delegates, so I didn't know you wanted to take questions after, or didn't leave them standing there. It's in regards to the process. I understand that the application is going to be before the Committee of Adjustment. But my question is about the kennel license. If the Committee of Adjustment approves the application, is there still not a kennel license component that's required? And does council have any input on that?
I see Mark nodding, so we have a lack of microphones, so I don't know how.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Well, I'm glad you're patting him on the back. That's a good sign.
To Alderman Dykstra. Yes, this is just one little hurdle for the process. Once, if the committee does approve this variance, then he will be allowed to apply for a kennel license, because at the moment he cannot apply to obtain a kennel license because he doesn't meet the property size. So once he once this is passed or does get passed and he does apply for a kennel license, myself and the SPCA have to go to his property to do a site visit to make sure the property meets the standards. So if we deem it's not up to standards, we can give him an order saying, make these corrections. And if he doesn't, then we can decline the kennel license and the minor variance is for nothing, so to speak, or he can make those changes and follow the rules and go forward that way. But if there's any violations after this is passed, it would be myself and the Humane Society that can pull that kennel license.
If I could just continue, Madam Mayor, while you're up there, could I just ask you, Mark, I realize you haven't been here since 2013, but do you have any idea why it would have been able to be in operation since 20? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I understand you have, I'm not saying you, I'm just saying, is there any, there's no logical reason, like we had the delegation to council, it was turned down, why it was still allowed to operate since 2013?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Alderman Dykstra, I don't have an answer for you. It should have been dealt with. I don't know why it wasn't. I've been getting complaints since March. I'm the reason that he has, I gave him an ultimatum that he must apply for this variance or court charges are going to be proceeded. This is why we got this process started. And just to, we need a decision made by the committee whether he can have this or not before we can tell him what he can and can't do. So right now there has been lots of complaints and we can't tell him to stop something if he's not allowed to do something on his property. Like, we have to, essentially get a decision before we can start enforcement.
Thank you.
Can I add something? He's
Yeah.
only allowed to have supposedly 3 dogs on his property with tags. At the moment, he has, to my thoughts, he has included them all in his kennel, and he's ongoing. He walked away from here in 2013, and went and did what he wanted, and he's been doing it ever since, until finally we had enough. We went to the former fire chief, and he tried to approach him and ask him to do things, and he more or less did nothing. I don't believe Mark's job, if he gets this minor variance, will be an easy task. It will not work. This is,
Okay.
it's I just want a moment of silence for common sense, because I believe it is passed.
Alderman Conk, did you have a question or a comment?
Madam Mayor, to Sarah, with the back half of this property that's in the agricultural area, is what is in the agricultural area large enough? Is there any parameters that he has to meet with regards to that, size-wise?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Conk. So the part that's zoned A2 is not large enough per our bylaw. So our bylaw requires in the A2 zone that you have a minimum of 10 hectares. And the part that's zoned agricultural on this particular property is about 5 hectares. So that's why he's applying for the minor variance to recognize that reduced lot size. And then in the A2 zone, we also require a 75-meter interior side yard setback. And the structure, the barn that's currently there that would be used for the kennel is only 63 meters from the property line. So he's requesting a minor variance for that reduction as well. So it's already a permitted use, but he doesn't meet some of the zoning provisions for that use. So that's why he's requested a minor variance.
In fact, okay, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering, it seems to me like he's got half of what he needs, and that's, in my mind, that's not minor.
Well, but this is where I need to caution council, because this is before the committee of adjustment tomorrow. So it's really, as the Cretons themselves stated, it's really not for us to be weighing in on. It's kind of a peculiar situation, so having them, I mean, we definitely wanted to hear your delegation, but it's gone through the proper processes of being, delegated, relegated to the Committee of Adjustment as kind of that impartial body that looks at this. So that's kind of where we are with that. So yeah, continue.
So can they throw it in our laps if they decide they don't want to deal with it, can they throw it in our laps?
I don't know if we've ever had that happen. Could the Committee of Adjustment defer it to council, or they would just decide and then?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the authority has been delegated to the Committee of Adjustment, so they would have to make the decision. They're scheduled to hear this application tomorrow afternoon. Since they've been delegated the authority from council, council still has the right of appealing any of the decisions that they make. But the initial decision has to come from the Committee of Adjustment.
Can I speak? At one time, we were told the last time we had the meeting that other communities have 5 acres welland in these places. This is not welland or these places. This is Wainfleet, and he's still not. He would have to move the barn back farther, and he doesn't have a limit on the docks. To me, this is just anyway.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the comments. Appreciate your delegation tonight, and thanks so much. And thank you, Mark, for commenting and helping council have a better understanding. So thank you again. Okay. So we need to receive the presentation for information. So can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Conk. And I will call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. And now we will move on to public hearings. And here it is. Okay, so I'll hand it over to, am I starting it off then? Sorry, I haven't done one of these in a while. Okay, so we have an application for rezoning file Z02-2017, 53057 Perry Road, Concession 5, Part Lot 28 and 29, Timothy, Rosemary, and Elaine Lambert, M Degrees agent. So the purpose of the public meeting held pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act is to provide information respecting an application for rezoning submitted to the township by Timothy, Rosemary, and Elaine Lambert to amend the zoning on a property on the east side of Perry Road, south of Wilford Road, and known municipally as 53057 Perry Road. So now I will hand it over to our planner.
The proposed amendment is needed to comply with provincial, regional, and township policy regarding severance of a surplus farm dwelling. So there's a concurrent application that is scheduled to be heard by the Committee of Adjustment tomorrow afternoon for the severance of the surplus farm dwelling. And regional, provincial, and township policy require that the remnant agricultural lands be rezoned to agricultural purposes only, which prohibits the construction of a dwelling in the future and maintains the lands for agricultural purposes on an ongoing basis. So there was a key map attached to the agenda for this evening. So Part 2, being 22.63 hectares, is what's being proposed to be rezoned from agricultural A2 to A2-1 for agricultural purposes only. I have received some comments from the commenting agencies, so the region was supportive, as was the Conservation Authority, and it was circulated to township departments, and no concerns were noted with the zoning bylaw amendment application. In terms of the next steps, the township, I went a little too far.
So you're handing it over to me? Okay, excellent. So are there any questions from council members regarding this application? Okay, seeing none, are there any comments, questions, anything from the gallery this evening? Okay, I'll ask one more time. Any comments from the gallery? All right, seeing none, I will hand it back over to the planner for next steps.
The Township Planning Department will prepare a report for a subsequent meeting of council, providing a detailed review of the application and providing a recommendation to council with respect to the application. At that meeting, council may approve the zoning for the property. And should council pass a bylaw, notice of that passage will be given to those individuals and agencies specified in Section 34 of the Planning Act, and anyone who filed a written request to be notified. That notice will include explanation of the appeal procedure to the Ontario Municipal Board. So if an appellant has not provided council with oral submissions at the public meeting this evening or provided written submissions before the bylaw is passed, the Ontario Municipal Board may dismiss the appeal.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So should any individual want to be ensured that notice of passage of the rezoning will be sent to them, they should inform the clerk in writing, which can be done following this meeting. All right, so now we will go into our mayor's remarks, and before we do, I just want to announce that our newest member of the Fire Master Plan Implementation Committee has arrived, so just let him know that he is that member. We announced it at the beginning, he wasn't here, so okay, moving on, mayor's remarks. We hosted the annual Wainfleet Safety Day and Bike Rodeo a couple weeks ago, I think now, and it was a huge success. Once again, they had a beautiful day. The event was well attended. I kind of snuck in as it was ending, but there seemed to be a lot of kids, a lot of prizes as usual, and we couldn't make that happen without the businesses and volunteers in the community, and then of course our staff and council members who participated in that. So thank you so much to everybody, and hope that we continue to do that for a long time. On June 8th, I attended a strategic feedback session regarding the integration of the Canadian Mental Health Association of Niagara and Pasto Mental Health, and I won't spend too much time on it, but it was really interesting, and what they're trying to do is provide like emergency care so that people aren't going to the hospital and waiting, and they're also trying to kind of there's a gap between adolescents up to the age of 16. Once they hit 16, there's a gap from to where they are an adult, and I've heard about that from different members in our community and outside of our community that's an issue. So I was glad to see that they are working on that. So it was very informative and interesting, and I was glad that I participated in that. And last Wednesday, myself and Lee were invited into Port Colborne City Hall, and we joined Mayor Maloney and staff, and we were invited by the Chamber of Commerce, and we met with the Toronto, and I can't say it now, Tangen Business Association. So that was really interesting. We got to tell them about Wainfleet, and in particular, they were very interested in our drainage program and how we handled all the rain that we had, and they were very impressed that we really didn't have any major issues. So it was interesting where the discussion went after that. So it was a pleasure to meet with them. They had a business after 5 at the Sugarloaf Marina, but I had a terrible throat infection, so I did not continue on to that, but we appreciated being invited to that. And then also, so on Friday, MP Dean Allison hosted a roundtable discussion regarding the legalization of marijuana, and I was not able to attend, but I want to thank Alderman Hessels for going and being a part of that roundtable. And I wouldn't mind hearing about it after. We haven't had a chance to connect, but I thank you. Sorry?
I could give you a little.
Okay, well, we can even wait until my remarks are done if you want to quickly tell us about it. So thank you for going to that. And Alderman Hessels also attended, because I was still ill. The Boggio family put on another event regarding port care, so they had a Rock the Hoe Down out in Port Colborne. So Alderman Hessels and Vaughn attended that on my behalf, so thank you again. I saw some pictures on Facebook. I didn't see you in any of them. Maybe that's a good sign. So you were behaving yourself, but thank you for participating. And Alderman Conk will be attending the Celebrating Age-Friendly Niagara Forum tomorrow at Amici's Conference Center, so thank you for attending that. I will be at Club Roma tomorrow attending the Niagara Children's Center AGM, and I can't believe that a year has gone by. I've served a year on the board already, and it's been an amazing experience, and it's such a great organization, and they do service several children here in Wainfleet, and it's a pleasure to be a part of that. And then I will also be attending on Thursday the TAPC Arson Prevention Program for Children. They're having their 10th anniversary at Pathstone. And when the chief had the OFM come in to do some municipal training, they talked about that. And Alderman Conk and I were not aware that they had a program for children related to arson and mental health. So we were really quite interested in that. So I definitely wanted to attend that and be a part of that on Thursday. So moving on, we will, Alderman Conk, are you participating in the Rose Parade on Sunday? No? Okay. Well, I am. So I'll be marching with the Save the Welland Hospital on Sunday at the Rose Parade. I believe it starts at 1 o'clock. And I think they've shortened it up this year. So if it's hot like it was last year, I'll be grateful for that. So if anybody wants to come out and throw water balloons at me, you're more than welcome. And the next regular board meeting for the Conservation Authority is June 28th in the morning at Balls Falls. Regional Council meeting is Thursday, June 29th. Now we do have scholarship awards being presented to students at Port High, Yale Crosley, and Lakeshore over the course of next week. So I am attending Lakeshore and then hopefully heading to Regional Council after that. So it's going to be a busy week for everybody. And I'm almost done. Canada 150 Celebration Committee is in need of volunteers, and we all know the celebration day is July 1st. So if anyone would like to assist in any way, please reach out to the committee by way of their Facebook page or contact staff at Town Hall. And I also want to mention that our office, Township office, will be closed July 3rd, and our next meeting, council meeting, is July 18th. And just to go back to Canada Day, I really, really hope that everybody can come out and participate that day. Staff and the committee and all the volunteers have been working really hard to put together a great afternoon and evening for everybody, and we had a great article in the Tribune. I think it was online yesterday and in today, I believe. And I think we're doing a mail out too to notify residents. So we're hoping everybody, don't go to your cottage, come to town center and celebrate with us. So anyway, I will turn over to Alderman Hessels if you want to share with us about I want to make a joke, but the marijuana roundtable.
I was going to first say something else. I did attend the flag raising ceremony for the elder abuse, and I was just kind of wondering why you thought I needed to go there. But no, the marijuana grow, actually I learned a lot there. Like I didn't know there's basically 3 different types of growing. There's the commercial, which they're the ones where you're not going to really have any problems. It's the licensed one, which is all the ones in Wainfleet. We don't have a commercial one in Wainfleet, and then there's the homegrown or whatever. So rules and regulations are very limited on the licensed producers and homegrown. Us as a dairy farmer have more rules and regulations than these people do. So it was a real eye-opener for me. So, and I guess they're going to go to Ottawa and try to tell them the big problems that they're having. So.
Okay, well, thanks again for attending that, and I appreciate you updating us, excuse me, on it. And sorry, yes, I sent you to the flag raising for elder abuse. Thank you again. Okay, so now we will move into the adoption of minutes.
That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on May 30th, 2017, and the minutes of the special meeting of council held June 6th, 2017 be adopted as circulated.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Alderman Conk, seconded by Alderman Dykstra. Any errors or omissions? Questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. And now we'll move on to our reports.
That administrative staff report ASR 22-2017 regarding strategic plan implementation update and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
If I can get a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Conk. Were there any questions or discussion on this? Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, a couple of things. On page In Appendix A, it's the first page, I'm going to make a snippy little remark here with regards to the action, review zoning bylaws and planning procedures to ensure that they allow development in appropriate areas, especially in hamlets, especially when we're looking at Lakewood coming at us. I find that interesting. But on the last page, I'm wondering what staff is looking at for this particular 3.4 highlight marketing opportunities. Can you kind of give us an idea of what you might be looking at?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Conk. Right at the moment, we're sort of looking at options, listening to things that are taking place in other municipalities, and there's been a lot of forward movement on this, as indicated by the yellow light status that it has. This project is sort of parked at the moment as we sort of watch, listen, and look for opportunities that are in keeping with Council's direction in terms of the strategic goals of the township. So, we're certainly being pensive with this one.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions from council members? Alderman Hessels?
Yeah. Brought it up a bunch of times, community engagement. Like, I still wonder, are we ever going to go after email addresses so that we could, I didn't really see that part in here. I've seen a few other things. I don't know if that would be something that should be included in there.
I'll hand that over to Lee, but I know a while ago, because you're right, you've been, like Richard and our digital sign, you have been big on the emails, and I don't think it's as difficult as maybe it might have been conveyed to us way back when that it was, so I'll turn it over to Lee to answer that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Hessels. As you're aware, Alderman, there are plans afoot, and we're moving forward with website redesign, and one of the ways that we want to be able to outreach more effectively is through emails. And so we're going to try to build into the website the opportunity for people to voluntarily join our database so that they can be kept aware of not only township news, but other sorts of items like severe weather, road closures, and other pertinent information. And that'll be tempered, of course, with the regulations that are in place for privacy and do not contact lists that we have to comply with as well. But short answer to your question is yes, it's certainly our intention to try to get access to that data for people who want to voluntarily take part.
Alderman Conk?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I know we've talked about this several times, and I don't know if we actually do put notices in with our tax bills that go out. Do we ever put in, could you give us your email address? Would you be willing? Do we do anything like that? I know we've talked about.
I don't think we ever have. I think the question would we be able to do that? So I don't know if Lee has an answer, if it's something that we can look into. I know you're right, we talked about sending out notices with the tax bill, but
through you, Madam Mayor, Alderman Conk, it's not so much a matter of making the request, it's a matter of having the necessary infrastructure in place so that if we were, if staff was wildly successful and started to be inundated with that information, that we wouldn't have the infrastructure in place to really make use of it. So we want to try to combine the two, is the thinking.
any further questions? I just wanted to comment real quick. I like this report, I like this update, and I like the format, and I just wanted to mention two things. There was talk about the high-speed internet access to Wainfleet. So just I know council knows, but a reminder that I am a board member for the SWIFT initiative. So that's a bit of a slower process, but I am working away with them on that. And secondly, I've had residents out in kind of the Lakeshore area asking about Bell running fiber out. So we've tried for a long time to connect with Bell, and finally Amber managed to find somebody who actually is kind of in charge of our area here in Wainfleet, and he came and met with me the other day, and I kind of got a crash course on brownfields and greenfields within the township, and so I made a good connection with him, and we're going to stay in touch, and he kind of explained about kind of the criteria for running new fiber through pole versus ground, and so it was good. So I finally have a connection there, so I think we can move forward slowly with that and keep on them. And then secondly, Lee and I had a talk, and we are going to be, hopefully on Monday, starting visiting businesses again. Even if it's just to sit and shoot the breeze for half an hour, it doesn't even necessarily have to be related to their business. But I did, on different reasons, go and meet with a couple businesses last week, and ended up just sitting and visiting, and they asked me a lot of questions about what was going on in the township. They're busy, they don't follow along, so I was able to kind of bring them up to speed, and it was good. It was good to just sit and talk to people. So we're going to try and do that every Monday afternoon and see how far we get with that. So I just wanted to let council know that. I'm excited we're finally going to roll that back out again. So if people don't have any more questions or comments, then I will call the question on this report. All those in favor? And that's carried. So now we're going to building permits.
The building staff report BSR 6 2017 regarding building permit report May of 2017, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Mover and a seconder for the building permit report. Moved by Alderman Hessel, seconded by Alderman Conk. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried.
The bylaw enforcement staff report BESR 4 2017 regarding monthly statistical reporting, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Mover and a seconder, moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Hessels. Any questions or concerns or comments on this report? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried.
The fire staff report FSR 4 2017 regarding fire station replacement update, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Mover and a seconder for this report, moved by Alderman Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Conk, did I see? Okay. Any questions or concerns on this report? Okay, seeing none, then I will call the question. All those in favor, and that's carried.
The fire staff report FSR 5 2017 regarding mutual aid participation, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Mover and a seconder, moved by somebody. Alderman Conk, seconded by Alderman Dykstra. Any questions on this report? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried.
That planning staff report PSR 6 2017 regarding farm help house policies, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Mover and a seconder for this one. Moved by Alderman Hessel, seconded by Alderman Conk. Any questions or concerns on this one? Alderman Conk, did I see your hand snap up briefly? Yes. Okay.
This is a tough one, and I think it is it might be even a first in Wainfleet with regards to a request for a farm help house, simply because of the nature of most of the farming within the community. So at this point, I don't think we have any other option but to go with option number 2. I think we need to change the zoning, the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw in order to be able to help Mr. Kears.
I am going to get Sarah to speak to that, because I think there needs to be an explanation that goes along with that option. So I'll hand it over to Sarah.
So through you, Madam Mayor, so in terms of Mr. Kears' request he's calling it a farm help house, but part of the issue is that the intended use of that house, while one person that would reside at that house would be an employee of the farm, it would also be that person's family, husband and family. So that does not meet the definition of a farm help house, not only in our policies, but in many of the policies across the Niagara municipalities. So there's kind of 2 issues here. The first issue is whether we want to entertain having permanent and seasonal farm help houses, and that's kind of what I've outlined in option 2. However, that's still, even if we did an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment to include both permanent and temporary farm help houses, Mr. Akira still would not qualify as a farm help house because it would be a single detached dwelling for one employee of the farm and her family. So many of the farm help house policies require that the house be used by full-time or seasonal employees of the farm operation.
Alderman Hessel, Alderman Conk, did you have a follow-up to that, or want me to come back to you after? Okay, Alderman Hessels.
Like right now, we only can have temporary. I do see a need going ahead to have permanent, because I know there's a large greenhouse operation, and greenhouses, for one, it's not seasonal, it's year round, so I do see if they're gonna put big investments into something, I would like to see that we kind of go with the option 2, that we will allow permanent residents or permanent housing.
Alderman Conk?
So again, through you, Madam Mayor, again, this is difficult because the Kears family is looking at succession of the business, and it's his daughter that's going to be taking over the business, and they want a separate residence on the property so that they can look after the business. So I don't understand why we can't move forward with option number 2 and perhaps create another definition, if we need to, of farm help house and what workers are. I mean, again, I think we're moving into another area. Many farmers may be facing in the not too distant future when they're handing their farms and their businesses down to family members. So, and again, I realize this probably could be an inappropriate comment, however, I'm going to make it anyway. We are seeming to bend over backwards for a development that's along the lakeshore, but yet this business has been in this township for many, many years, and I think we need to do everything that we can to accommodate Mr. Kears and his family, and perhaps that is maybe putting a mobile home, a double-wide mobile home on his property instead of building a house. It's an option.
I don't think his daughter was going for the mobile home option, but I could be wrong. But so just to further to Alderman Conk's questions, it was my understanding that, the way my thought process, so I appreciate what you're saying, but I think the concern, the reason this is done the way it is, does it not have something to do with severing agricultural property, and you can only sever one piece, and so could this not open, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but could this not open up the door to have, if we did this, set a precedent and then have other people say, well, I have my family, we've already severed this lot, but now I want them to build something, on my property and have a second home for my other family, and then we would really not be able to say no to them at that point. So I don't know I hope I'm making sense, but I'm just worried that this would set a precedent that would open the door to people using it to get around severing a property a second time, or severing a property that they're not allowed to sever to begin with.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So you're correct. So within our agricultural zones, we don't permit severances for building lots for homes. So it could be seen that could be taking advantage, that if we permitted 2 dwellings on a lot, that could be taking advantage of not allowing severances for residential building lots. So you're right, it could be a workaround to getting that second house. I noted in my report that generally as a planning principle, we tend to shy away from having 2 principal residences on one lot. There's a number of concerns that go into that, and that's throughout the province, so typically that's not permitted. I'm not opposed to having permanent and seasonal farm help houses. We can certainly do an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for that. I just think in Mr. Kears' case, it's not going to be a benefit to him because this house wouldn't be for farm help. It would be a principal residence for a family, and that wouldn't be the intent of having a farm help house.
comments or questions on this one? So I go back to Alderman Hassel's. Were you still?
Yeah, I would still make the motion, we go with option 2 because, like I say, farms are getting bigger and whether it's a help, like, once the rules are in place, it could work the same ways with that other delegation or the thing tonight with the APO, you know, the rules are in place, you know, you built that second house, you're not gonna be able to sever it, just like APO land, you're not gonna be able to build on there, so I see the rules fairly straightforward, but I would just like to be able that they could put a permanent one up instead of a thing, and I think they also do that with granny suites too, or whatever, you can have and that's temporary too. I think you have to apply for every 10 years, but that's a different story. But for farm help houses, I would like them to have the option to go permanent.
Okay, so you're making the motion to amend the report. Is it to amend the report to go with option 2 or just to go with option 2 as per the report? Okay, so to go with option 2. Is there a seconder for that? Excuse me, Alderman Conk. Any discussion then on the amendment? This is an amendment then, am I right? To the report? I apologize. Okay. So I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. And then, so going to the balance of the report, am I correct on that? Okay. We will vote on the balance of the report. So all those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so now we will go on to the revised encroachment policy.
That planning staff report PSR 7 2017 regarding revised encroachment policy and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
So I need a mover and a seconder for this report. Moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Conk. Any questions or comments on this report? Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I read through the policy very carefully, and I agree with everything that's in there. However, on page 5 of 6, number 6, I think there needs to be another word added to that first sentence. Persons or organization using the facility shall not conduct themselves. Right now it says persons or organizations using the facility shall conduct themselves in any disorderly manner, including.
We're on the encroachment when you're on ice allocation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm like going through and 5 of 6 or 6 out of.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So anything on the encroachment policy? No, nothing? Okay. No, that's all right. I do that at the region all the time. Anybody else have any questions about the encroachment policy? All right, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Now we'll go on to ice allocation policy, and I will go straight to Alderman Conk.
So, page 5, I think the word not needs to be added on that sentence. Page 5 of 6, so under 2.13, number 6, persons or organizations using facilities shall not conduct themselves in any disorderly manner. Yes? Other than that, it was okay.
Okay, so you'll make that adjustment? Okay, so and actually I need a mover and a seconder for the report. Moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Hessels. And then does anybody else have any questions or grammatical errors to, all right, seeing none? No, it's a good point though, because it's, yeah. I'll call the question, all those in favor, and that's carried. Okay, and now we'll go into the final report.
That Public Works Staff Report PWSR 12 2017 regarding the award of tender 2017 road rehabilitation program, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Okay, mover and a seconder for this final report. Moved by Alderman Dijkstra, seconded by Alderman Conk. Any questions or concerns on this one? Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried. Excuse me. Now we're going into correspondence, and our clerk has informed me she does not need to read the whole thing. We can just go straight into excuse me, correspondence. And the only one that we have to deal with is number 149 regarding the flu clinic. I can't believe they're already organizing for that, but I guess that's a good thing. So does anybody wish to make the motion then to amend that to waive the fee? Alderman Hessels is making that motion, seconded by Alderman Dijkstra. I will call a question on that amendment. All those in favor, that is carried. Any other correspondence anybody would like to discuss? Excuse me, Alderman Cobb.
I'm looking at, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm looking at number 152 with regards to the Ministry of Citizen and Immigration for nominations for good citizenship. I think there are a few people in Wainfleet that could be nominated. And the deadline, I believe, is July the 17th. So there's a fair bit of footwork that has to be done. But I'm wondering if there are other suggestions to the few people that I have in mind that could be nominated. Or if we even want to do that.
Well, yeah, we could have staff look into it. I'm looking at the lovely Amber Dashwood. Maybe you'd just like to make a motion to direct staff to look into it, and then we'll throw that in her lap tomorrow morning. And she's already excited. Look at that. So if you're making that motion, can we get a seconder for that? Seconded by Alderman Hessels. All those in favor? That is carried. And any other correspondence anybody would like to deal with? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question on the correspondence as, no, we don't do that? Beautiful. Okay, nice and simple. So now we'll go into bylaws.
That the following bylaws be now read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 20th day of June 2017. Bylaw number 27, being a bylaw to adopt a policy for encroachments on township-owned lands and repeal bylaw number 39, 2015. Bylaw number 28, 2017, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 17, 2016, and bylaw number 75, 2017, being bylaws to appoint a chief administrative officer and clerk pursuant to section 229 and section 228, subsection 1 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. Bylaw number 29, 2017, being a bylaw to appoint bylaw enforcement officers for the corporation of the Township of Wainfleet.
Okay, I need a mover and a seconder for those bylaws. Moved by Alderman Dijkstra and seconded by Alderman Conk. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried. So we don't have any notices of motion. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't assume that. Do we have any notices of motion? No, okay. We don't have any proclamations, but do we have other business? Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I have three. I am a member of the Safety Committee, which helped put on Safety Day recently. However, the committee has dwindled in the last couple of years, and we're having difficulty getting members to come out. So it was a consensus of the committee that it's served its purpose, and I'm looking for council direction at this point on keeping the committee in place as per the committee's request to dissolve, and how we go about doing that. Do we just send a letter of correspondence saying that the committee wishes to dissolve, but we also would like to make sure that Safety Day stays in place. All of the components are there. Staff doesn't have a lot of extra work to do because all of those components are in place and have been in place for 8 years. So I'm just kind of looking for some direction here.
So I think we would look to the clerk on this one, dissolving the committee and then moving forward.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Conk. So basically, this is because it's a committee of council. Council can make a motion to dissolve that committee, and I can certainly follow up with the committee to make them aware of that decision. Now, I think that the chief was speaking of safety day still continuing, that was still a part of the fire prevention officer's duties. I'm not sure if you can speak to that.
Certainly, that would be something that we could incorporate within the department, I think, moving forward from here.
So would we be looking for that motion tonight then?
I'd be willing to make that motion.
Okay. So you're making a motion to dissolve the committee and then safety day to continue under the fire prevention officer and fire department. Okay. So I need a seconder for that. Seconded by Alderman Dykstra. Any questions, Alderman Hess?
Yeah. Shouldn't we get a letter from the committee saying they want to dissolve?
We can certainly provide you with a letter if that's what council wants.
It just seems.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, the protocol. So do you would you feel more comfortable waiting and we could?
Yeah, I would personally rather see us get a letter from them saying they want to dissolve instead of us just dissolving it. If she wants to change her motion.
And then we could put it on correspondence and then vote on it then for the next council meeting. So no, that's a good point. Okay, are you willing to withdraw?
Yes, I am.
Are you okay with that,
I'm
Alderman
good.
Dykstra? All right, great, thank you. That's a better process, I think. Okay, and so that was one.
That was one.
So I got two.
Yes. The second one I have is I'm going to ask if we can get some legal advice with regards to Lakewood. And
As soon as you say legal advice, I think that we need to be careful with, so I'm just gonna hold that for a minute and thinking that, okay, I'll let you continue, but I get nervous when you say legal advice. I think closed session, so I didn't know, but you go ahead and then
with regards to Lakewood and any exposure that the township may have with future liability with regards to that development and/or memorandums of understanding that we need to have in place, just in case it does get approved in the future. So I guess, again, I'm looking for direction, I suppose, from somebody to tell me if that's at all possible before the next council meeting.
okay, so
During council, whatever.
would it be Alderman Conk to make a motion to direct staff to look into, would you like to speak to it before I put words in your mouth? Or? Sarah, okay, we'll turn to Sarah and then.
Certainly, yeah, we can contact our township solicitor and buy them. We don't have the mutual agreement or anything in place now. If the application were approved and that's a condition of the application, then we would work with our township solicitor at that point to get an agreement in place. And that would have to come before council, but we can certainly have preliminary discussions ahead of that staff report being presented to council. And maybe I can follow up with you and have a discussion about what you're looking for.
Okay. That was way easier than I thought. So your third.
And my third and final is and our bylaw enforcement officer, Mark, knows about this. I've had complaints about parking along Quarry Road, Maplewood, all that area down in there. We don't have enough signs. And I'm wondering if it's at all possible for the police to be asked if they can possibly do maybe a drive-by at night down Quarry Road, because I have had a resident say she walks her dog first thing in the morning and she finds used condoms and needles on the road, on the sides of the roads, and I don't even want to think about that. But perhaps if there was police presence, that kind of activity might not happen quite so frequently.
I know I can reach out to Chris Scotland, or it's not Chris Scotland, sorry, he's retired, Chris Healy, and because we have the last couple of years, because the issue was more at Reeves Bay with fires, late at night, 2 in the morning, pickup trucks on the beach, leaving debris, and everybody knows the story there. So we did have them more frequently during the summer months patrolling that area. Knock on wood, I think the actual beach portion, we've done a lot to mitigate the situation there. So I can certainly reach out to him and see if he can send someone down that whole area in Quarry Road. So yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, any other business from, we've got, I don't know whose hand went up first. Okay, Alderman Hassels.
Yeah, I brought it up before, July 14th is dinner at the dairy. It's an opportunity for people to see a dairy farm free of charge and free dinner and everything included. So that's from 4, I think, till 9 o'clock at night, and it's down the road here, Case Road, Mark Brother Farms.
I'm wondering if we can reach out, it was actually Brenda Roselle who informed me about it, but if we could reach out to somebody, I don't know if it would be Brenda, to get the information to maybe put on Facebook.
Actually, I've talked to Lee already, and I've got all the information here, and we're looking after it.
Oh, okay, perfect. Alderman Dykstra.
Through you, Madam Mayor. In regards to one of our delegations from the Firemark, we never really discussed after that. Firemark or Firemarkies, however. I said Firemark, siding with the ladies. So we never really discussed any business arising from that delegation, and I was just wondering if maybe we could get a report back on that from the chief, if that's possible, or
Yeah.
I think we should have a follow-up with that. I have been to their booth many times at FCM and spoke to them in the past, so I think it'd be good if you could bring back a report.
Sure. So I think we need a motion then for you to
So I prepare
recognize.
a motion.
So Meredith's writing it down. Do we have a seconder for that? Alderman Conk. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? That is carried. Before we continue, I'm just wondering, going back, Alderman Conk, to your request to Sarah, do we need no, we don't need a motion for people? Okay, all right, just wanted to be sure. Okay, so no other, Alderman Dykstra. That's right, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
So if I may continue, you did bring it up earlier, and I didn't ask under the strategic plan. You mentioned my sign that I've been toting the flag for. I'm just wondering if we could have an update, if we have any ideas of an ETA.
Your worship, to Alderman Dykstra, I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow morning, or tomorrow at noon, with the MTO. They're coming down here directly because they have a new staff person doing permits. So the contractor is coming tomorrow at noon with the MTO to iron out the last few details in order to get the permit.
Okay, that'd be great. So we could maybe expect a sign then for fall kind of thing?
I was shooting for the July 1st weekend, but because of the permit process, it's taking a little longer because it's a new staff member. It probably won't be there for July 1st, but it will be there in July, as long as the permit process continues to go smoothly.
Okay, I appreciate that. If you keep me in the loop, I'd like to be there for the unveiling. And if I may continue, so now on to my new sign aspirations. We had a delegation in the past regarding a entry sign to Wainfleet, and it's something that I've noticed a lot of communities have, and we don't have that. Is that something that we are going to be working on going forward as well?
Through your worship, to Alderman Dykstra, I did contact the MTO as far as one on each end of the entrance, and they are going to be sending me the regulations regarding those. But again, because it's a new girl working doing permits, she was gathering all the information, but they do potentially have a permit to do that.
So we would be seeing the follow-up on that then at some point then too as well?
Through your worship, to Alderman Dykstra, yes, because at present we didn't have it in the budget, so we are trying to go through the process, and then we'll see where we get with that as far as what we need for the permits for design. Then we'll have to go for design and everything.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other business from anybody else? I think we've covered everybody. Meredith, do you have another business? No, you're good? Okay, so we need the motion to confirm the proceedings of today.
That bylaw number 30, 2017, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the actions of the council at its regular meeting held on the 20th day of June 2017, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 20th day of June 2017.
Mover and seconder for that, Alderman Conk, Alderman Dykstra. All those in favor, that's carried. Motion to adjourn, Alderman Hessels, Alderman Dykstra. All those in favor, and that is carried.